Jake Martinez had been staring into the abyss of space for nearly 3 hours when the silence broke. His ship's sensors lit up with a piercing alarm, a sound designed to wake even the most exhausted crew from the edges of sleep. The Admiral rubbed his tired eyes, leaning toward the display. What he saw did not seem possible. 300 alien ships had appeared out of nothingness, as though they had stepped directly from another layer of reality into this one. Each vessel was vast, each the size of a small city, and they glowed with crystalline light so sharp, so brilliant, that to look directly at them felt like staring into a weapon made of starlight itself. This was not first contact. This was an invasion. Lisa Brooks was the first human to hear their voices. The captain had been working late in the communications chamber when her equipment picked up the incoming signal. She had expected noise, interference, perhaps a strange distortion of sound. Instead, what came through was a voice, mechanical, cold, artificial. It was the kind of voice that might emerge from a machine that had learned language, but never emotion. The entity named itself High Chancellor Vexter. He spoke for something called the Zephyrian Empire, a name that carried with it the heavy weight of inevitability. His words were simple. Terrifying. Humanity had 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. If they did not, every human in the galaxy would be eradicated. Vexter claimed that his empire had already conquered 17 star systems. To him, humanity was nothing more than another primitive culture, one that needed to be shown its place in the cosmic order. His message was blunt: submit and live as slaves, or resist and die. There were no other choices. Ryan Davis, commander and chief analyst, immediately set to work. 6 hours passed as he pored over every fragment of data, every scan, every reading the sensors could provide about the alien fleet. What he discovered turned his stomach to ice. The alien vessels possessed energy shields impervious to any weapon humanity had ever created. Their plasma cannons could erase a city with a single strike. Their communications moved instantly across impossible distances, allowing perfect coordination, something no human military could dream of. By every measurable standard, the Zephyrian Empire was unstoppable. At 3 a.m., Earth's president, Elena Rodriguez, was shaken awake by her security detail. Within minutes she was briefed on the ultimatum. By dawn, she sat in emergency councils with generals, admirals, scientists. The verdict was unanimous. Every expert agreed, humanity stood no chance of surviving a war against such a civilization. And yet, not everyone agreed with that verdict. Dr. Kate Johnson had spent her life studying the psychology of warfare, how different species fought, how civilizations collapsed or endured. When she looked at the Zephyrians, she saw not inevitability, but fragility. The aliens had faced peaceful civilizations and broken them. They had faced militaries that fought by strict codes of honor and crushed them. Each opponent had played by rules the Zephyrians understood. The Altarian Republic had surrendered after their capital was destroyed. The Kepler Coalition had fought 3 battles, lost 3 battles, and laid down their arms. But humanity was different. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting not aliens, but each other. They had clawed their survival out of endless wars on a dangerous world filled with predators and disaster. Humanity had learned to adapt, to deceive, to transform loss into new forms of resistance. Never once in human history had a war been fought the same way twice. The Zephyrians expected rules. They expected surrender. They expected predictability. Humanity had never been predictable. General Chris Thompson had waited his entire career for this moment. Long ago, he had drafted a plan called Operation Defiance, a theoretical response to an alien invasion. Most had laughed at him for it. Now, those same skeptics came to him, desperate for salvation. The plan was not one of fleets clashing in the void or armies lined in formation. It was something far darker, far more human. No declarations. No mercy. No neat battles. Humanity would cheat, deceive, sabotage. They would make the galaxy's most powerful empire bleed for every inch it tried to take. And some would sacrifice everything to make that possible. Lieutenant Sam Walker volunteered for the mission that history would later call humanity's first strike. His orders were simple in design but suicidal in execution. He and his soldiers would disguise themselves as refugees, piloting damaged ships full of hidden weapons. The Zephyrians would let them pass, believing them to be defeated civilians. Then, when the enemy's supply lines were exposed, the deception would be revealed in fire. This was not honor. This was not noble resistance. It was survival. At the same time, Amy Collins, chief engineer, was dissecting alien debris. What she found fascinated her. Zephyrian technology was flawless, perfect in form, each system designed for one task only. But perfection carried a cost. The aliens did not adapt. They did not improvise. Humanity, on the other hand, had never built perfect tools. They had built flexible ones, tools that could be bent, repurposed, reimagined. A mining laser could become a weapon. A communications relay could become a jamming device. Humans had learned to survive by making do with what they had. The Zephyrians had built machines for a predictable universe. Humanity had been forged in chaos. Captain Ben Foster commanded Earth's defense fleet. His 40 vessels stood against 300 alien warships. Every simulation said the battle would be lost in less than an hour. But Foster had studied history. He knew the impossible victories, the battles won by those who should have perished. And he knew the key: never fight the war your enemy expects. Instead of neat lines and hopeless clashes, he would scatter his forces, strike from every direction, stretch the Empire's coordination to its breaking point. Meanwhile, Commander Nina Price organized resistance cells on colonies already captured. What she found was staggering. The Zephyrians had no doctrine, no preparation, for populations that refused to submit. Every other species had obeyed once beaten. Humans rebelled even in chains. And as the 72-hour deadline drew near, the truth became clear. Humanity could not win this war conventionally. But then again, humanity had never been good at fighting wars conventionally. 12 hours before the deadline expired, Sam Walker's refugee fleet made their move. Their ships drifted through space, patched together to look desperate, broken, harmless. Zephyrian scouts saw what they expected to see: terrified humans fleeing. They did not see the weapons. They did not see the soldiers hiding inside cargo crates marked as food. They did not see survival disguised as surrender. When Sam gave the signal, the ships came alive. What looked like weakness became violence. The first alien supply convoy burned in the darkness. For the first time in history, the Zephyrian Empire had been deceived. And High Chancellor Vexter, supreme leader of 1,000 years of conquest, received a report that made no sense. Primitive humans had destroyed Imperial ships. His advisors insisted it was luck. A glitch. A stolen fragment of technology. None of them considered the truth, that humanity had no intention of fighting by rules the Empire understood. The calm before the storm was gone. The 72-hour countdown was nearly over. And humanity had just proven they would not kneel quietly. If you're still with me in this calm sci-fi story, imagine yourself in Jake Martinez's position. Would you choose surrender, or resistance at any cost? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to follow humanity's long struggle against the alien empire, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss part 2. The 72-hour deadline came and went. Humanity did not surrender. From his throne of crystal and steel, High Chancellor Vexter was furious. In 10 millennia of expansion, no species had ever dared to defy him beyond the first strike. His empire's power was supposed to be absolute, his rule inevitable. And yet the humans had chosen resistance. He ordered the extermination to begin. The first Zephyrian assaults fell on Earth's outer colonies. Planets burned under plasma fire. Cities were erased in silence. Millions died before they could even understand the scale of what was happening. But something unexpected followed. For every colony destroyed, 2 more cells of resistance emerged. Civilians armed themselves with improvised weapons. Refugees became saboteurs. Abandoned mining stations were transformed into hidden fortresses. The Zephyrians expected fear to control the humans. Instead, destruction seemed to ignite them. Dar. Kate Johnson watched the reports flow in from across the system. Her prediction had been correct. The Empire did not know how to respond to defiance. They were an ancient machine designed for conquest, not adaptation. They had faced cultures that surrendered when broken. Humanity broke, and then kept fighting. Ryan Davis coordinated what became known as the Silent War. Human ships did not meet the enemy in open battle, they vanished into asteroid belts, nebulae, the shadow of moons. They struck supply convoys, relay stations, fuel depots. And then they disappeared again. It was not a war of fleets. It was a war of whispers. Each small victory cost the humans dearly, but every strike sowed confusion in the alien ranks. The Zephyrians' greatest strength, their rigid unity, became their weakness. When that unity was disrupted, they struggled to react. Amy Collins pushed this weakness further. She dissected captured alien tech, breaking it down into fragments and recombining it in ways its creators had never imagined. She turned their perfect tools into unpredictable ones. A damaged Zephyrian shield generator became the heart of a new kind of trap, a gravity snare hidden on a mining station. An enemy warship wandered too close and found itself pulled into a collision course with an asteroid field. One flawless machine destroyed by human improvisation. General Chris Thompson coordinated these strategies under Operation Defiance. His philosophy was brutal, but necessary. If we cannot win with strength, we will win with unpredictability. He knew history well. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, empires rising and collapsing. Always the same pattern, resilience born from chaos. He believed the same would hold true in this galactic war. But the cost was staggering. Lieutenant Sam Walker and his squad never returned from their second mission. Their disguised refugee convoy had been discovered, and none survived the retaliation. In death, they became symbols, proof that humanity would not submit quietly. Across Earth and the colonies, children learned their names. Soldiers carried their insignia into battle. The Empire thought death would end resistance. Instead, it fed it. Vexter grew impatient. His advisors urged him to focus the fleet, to crush humanity in a single overwhelming strike. But pride blinded him. He demanded humiliation, not just victory. He wanted humanity broken and begging, a warning to any other species watching from the shadows. And yet, the more he tried to display dominance, the more chaotic the conflict became. Captain Ben Foster's fleet used this arrogance against them. He scattered his ships into small groups, never presenting a single target. Zephyrian vessels moved to intercept, only to find themselves ambushed in asteroid fields or led into minefields seeded by human engineers. Every time the aliens adapted, humanity changed the rules again. Nina Price's underground network kept the fire alive on occupied colonies. Her resistance fighters operated from the ruins of cities, sabotaging factories the Zephyrians tried to build. They spread rumors, misinformation, phantom signals, so much so that alien commanders often attacked shadows instead of soldiers. The Zephyrians could not comprehend this kind of war. To them, combat was a sequence of maneuvers, each executed with precision. To humans, combat was chaos, and chaos was where they thrived. But the resistance was not just military. It was psychological. Earth's leaders began broadcasting messages into the stars, speeches meant not only for humanity, but for every alien race watching. President Elena Rodriguez spoke words that would echo across generations. We will not kneel. We will not vanish. If we fall fighting. And if we rise together. These transmissions reached more than human ears. Other civilizations, long conquered, long silenced, listened. Some began to whisper that maybe the empire was not eternal. The galaxy trembled at the thought. Dr. Kate Johnson realized something profound. This was not just a war of survival. It was a war of perception. The Zephyrian Empire thrived on the illusion of inevitability. If that illusion cracked, others would see it too. The humans did not need to win outright. They needed to prove the Empire could bleed. Every destroyed convoy, every sabotage warship, every rumor of human defiance chipped away at the Empire's aura of invincibility. And deep in the silence of space, the Zephyrians began to fear something they had never feared before: uncertainty. High Chancellor Vexter summoned his war council. Reports piled high: supply shortages, communication disruptions, entire sectors bogged down by resistance. His generals argued over strategy. Should they regroup? Should they withdraw and rethink? Vexter silenced them. His pride would not allow retreat. Instead, he declared that Earth itself would be destroyed. Humanity's homeworld would serve as an example. Burn Earth, and burn their spirit with it. It was the very miscalculation humanity had been waiting for. General Thompson, Amy Collins, and Captain Foster saw the opportunity. If the Empire brought its full might to Earth, it would also bring vulnerability. It would concentrate its power into a single theater of war. For the first time, the Zephyrians would not be everywhere at once. Humanity could strike, not to win, but to change the balance forever. In hidden bases across the system, preparations began. Engineers modified asteroid mining rigs into weapons platforms. Scientists rewired communication relays into decoys. Colonists volunteered to serve as bait, transmitting false signals to draw the aliens into traps. It was not the plan of a civilization that expected to win. It was the plan of a species determined not to die quietly. And as Earth's defenders prepared, a strange thing happened: hope returned. In the quiet hours before the invasion, Captain Ben Foster walked the decks of his ship. He knew most of his crew would not live through what was coming. And yet, he saw no fear in their eyes, only determination. Perhaps this was what made humanity unique. Not their weapons. Not their ships. But their refusal to accept inevitability. Their ability to imagine futures beyond defeat. As the Zephyrian fleet gathered for its decisive strike, the resistance prepared its answer. For the first time in 500,000 years, the Empire would face something it had forgotten. An enemy that refused to play by the rules. An enemy that could not be broken with fire. An enemy that would change the galaxy forever. If you've made it this far in this calm sci-fi story, ask yourself, what would resistance mean to you? Would you fight, even knowing victory was impossible? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you'll be here when we reach part 3, the counterstrike that shook the galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet arrived over Earth like a false dawn. 300 warships, each radiant with crystalline light, descended on humanity's homeworld. Their shields shimmered like oceans of glass. Their cannons glowed with enough power to erase continents. For High Chancellor Vexter, this was supposed to be the end of resistance. One single strike to shatter humanity's will, to erase their history, their memory, their future. The Empire would reign unchallenged once more. But the humans were waiting. In orbit, Captain Ben Foster's ships were scattered like sparks across the night sky. 40 vessels against 300. By any rational calculation, it was a hopeless battle. Yet Foster had no intention of fighting rationally. He gave the order, and Operation Defiance entered its final phase. Hidden satellites awoke across Earth's orbit, releasing swarms of drones. Mining rigs ignited thrusters, repurposed as guided weapons. Old, decommissioned stations came alive with jury-rigged plasma cannons. The first Zephyrian volleys tore through these defenses effortlessly. Dozens of human constructs vanished in fire. But for every target destroyed, 3 more appeared. The aliens believed they were facing Earth's defenses. In truth, they were chasing illusions. Amy Collins had built the battlefield itself into a weapon. False signals lured alien warships into asteroid belts seeded with explosives. Decoy transmissions drew entire squadrons into minefields hidden among orbital debris. Each time the Zephyrians adjusted, humanity shifted again. They turned their own losses into new tactics. A destroyed station became shrapnel that damaged pursuing ships. A shattered defense platform became cover for an ambush. Chaos was not a byproduct of human war. Chaos was the strategy. On the ground, Earth's skies burned. Plasma fire rained down, carving scars into the oceans and forests. But beneath the chaos, resistance cells coordinated strikes against Zephyrian ground troops. Nina Price's network used tunnels, shadows, and silence. Every occupation zone became a battlefield. Factories meant to build for the Empire exploded from within. Garrisons reported phantom attacks, enemies who seemed to vanish as quickly as they appeared. For every human captured, 3 more rose to take their place. Vexter demanded to know why the humans refused to break. His generals offered no answer. They had never faced a species that fought like this, not for conquest, not for glory, but simply to deny inevitability itself. Then came the turning point. General Chris Thompson had predicted it. Pride would drive the Zephyrians to overcommit, to pour resources into breaking humanity once and for all. And when that happened, their vast empire would stretch thin elsewhere. Intelligence confirmed it, uprisings were beginning on distant worlds. Species long conquered were hearing humanity's broadcasts, seeing proof that the empire could bleed. And for the first time in 500,000 years, they resisted. The illusion of invincibility was shattering. Dr. Kate Johnson called it the psychological singularity. A moment when the Empire's greatest weapon, fear, turned against itself. The Zephyrians had built their dominion on certainty. Without certainty, their unity faltered. Humanity had not defeated them with firepower. Humanity had defeated them with doubt. But victory came at a cost. Lieutenant Sam Walker's name was etched into the walls of Earth's last fortress, alongside thousands of others who never returned. Families grieved. Cities lay in ruins. Oceans boiled where plasma fire had struck. Humanity had survived, but survival was not the same as peace. At last, High Chancellor Vexter demanded negotiations. He would never call it surrender, his pride would not allow it. But he offered terms. And for the first time, humanity sat across the table from the Empire not as slaves, not as victims, but as equals. President Elena Rodriguez did not gloat. She did not seek revenge. Her words were simple, echoing across the chamber and into history. We are not your subjects. We are not your prey. We are humanity, and we choose our own future. The treaty that followed did not dissolve the empire overnight. But it marked the first crack in its foundation. A crack that would spread. A crack that would one day collapse it entirely. In the years that followed, scholars, philosophers, and ordinary citizens asked the same question: how did humanity survive? Some said it was strategy. Others said it was luck. But most agreed on something deeper. Humanity survived because they refused to accept inevitability. They survived because they turned chaos into a weapon. They survived because they imagined futures that others could not. Perhaps that was their true gift to the galaxy. Not just resistance. Not just survival. But the reminder that no empire, no matter how eternal it seemed, was beyond challenge. And yet, in the quiet corners of space, new whispers began. Some civilizations spoke of humanity as saviors. Others feared them as a new rising power, unpredictable and dangerous. And a few, like the Harari, a neutral race of observers, warned of something even greater. They spoke of the architects, a force far older, far more patient than the Zephyrian Empire. A force that watched, waiting. Humanity's war had ended. But the story of their place in the galaxy was only beginning. Jake Martinez, the admiral who had first seen the alien fleet, often walked the ruins of Earth's cities after the war. He looked at the scars carved into the planet and wondered what it meant. Humanity had survived, yes. But at what cost? He remembered the first time he had stared into the abyss of space. Back then, he had wondered if humanity was ready to face what lay beyond. Now he knew the truth, readiness had never been the point. The point was choice. And humanity had chosen to fight. The galaxy would never forget that choice. Because in the calm silence of the stars, one truth remained. Humanity was not just another species. Humanity was the reminder that inevitability is an illusion. And when inevitability is broken, the universe itself changes. If you've journeyed with me through this calm sci-fi story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe humanity's greatest strength lies in our technology, or in our refusal to accept fate? Share your reflections in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring the long story of humanity among the stars, make sure to subscribe. More HFY, more existential science fiction, and more journeys into the unknown are coming soon.